What's up, y'all? Back with another basic logic video. I found one where the title completely piqued my interest. It's brand new. He just posted it, and it's called How Feminism Destroyed Gen Z's Education. We just watched a video yesterday about how education is failing in Texas, in Houston, Texas, which is one of the nation's largest independent school districts. So this obviously piqued my interest, given the fact that we're just so recently talking about the failures of education. I definitely am interested in seeing what he attributes to be one of the contributing factors to be the failures in education, especially Gen Z's education, given the fact that I am a Gen Zer. So with that being said, let's get right into this.
I once had a teacher my classmates nicknamed Hitler for boys. If you were male and you weren't flamboyant, you could say goodbye to your GPA. Naturally, it was an English teacher, and she crafted a curriculum so that the literature we were forced to study was all explicitly feminist or racial and anti white. Disagreement was permitted on paper, but not in practice. The wisest choice for us was to exercise our right to remain silent whenever possible, because everything we said would be used against us. Couple that with the endless deceitful lectures about how women are paid less for the same job, how the future is female, how white men run the world and we were somehow at blame for everything even though we were still students, and schooling became nothing more than a humiliation ritual. And before you ask, yes, she had terrible relationships with the men in her life, and she made the boys in her class pay for it.
Well, well,
This
well.
story isn't unique. Every man of my generation can tell you of at least one example of why he was targeted for no reason other than being born the wrong sex, while being lectured on how he deserved it because historically men had power and allegedly misused it, and he's somehow guilty of that. But that's only scratching the surface. Some argue that schooling has been crafted in such a terrible way that it is functionally designed to disadvantage boys, decrease male academic performance, perpetuate misinjury, and ruin Gen Z's ability to have relationships.
Oh, wow.
And in this video, I cover those reasons, and if you enjoy it, consider subscribing, it helps the channel. Imagine yourself back during your primary education, with an adult lecturing at you endlessly for hours while you were expected to sit still and pay full attention. This would be unreasonable even for an adult, but much less a child, especially if that child was a boy. Both boys and girls struggle in such a situation, but for boys who are hardwired for spatial and mechanical activities at that age and have increased drives for adventure, it's flat out a biological obstruction for most. Trapped in such a circumstance, boys of strong imaginations escape by daydreaming, whereas those without mess around or find other small ways of entertaining themselves. Either way, the boys fall behind and often get into trouble. Instead of recognizing the absurdity of
Definitely
modern
been there,
schooling
done
and
that.
reform, it's into trouble. Instead of recognizing the absurdity of modern schooling and reform, it's easier for educators to just blame the boys, punish them until they submit, and in extreme but increasingly common cases, give them ADHD prescriptions. When they're called out for this, educators often point to their female students, showing their superior results as proof that the issue lies solely with the student. This defense is pure blank slate ideology, the dominant but debunked belief that men and women are effectively the same and need equal treatment. And until recently, no one contested it. We know boys are artificially held back because despite their worst start, by 16 to 18, boys catch up on standardized tests like the SAT and pull ahead in math and at the high end of STEM, while their
That is a very interesting statistic. I actually have never thought of it like that. But I do understand the point he's making because what gender are most educators in America? Female. I mean, every time I had a male teacher growing up, it's because they were a coach. Very rarely did I have a male teacher that taught a core class. Very rarely. And if I did, they were always like on the older end of the spectrum. Like now I feel like education is dominated by younger women, millennial women, Gen Z women. I mean, obviously this is about growing up Gen Z. So I mean, I feel like most of our teachers were young millennial women. So or older women or in super older gentlemen. Very rarely did I have a teacher who was a male. Majority of my teachers were all female, and if they were a male, they were probably a coach at some degree. All the male teachers I do remember having that were just teachers where they taught an elective like gym or something like that, something simple, no core classes. So this is very informative. This is very interesting to me. Now let's read this. Women consistently get higher average GPAs than men, both in schools and universities, but get equal or lower scores than men in standardized tests like the SAT, suggesting that the subjectivity of educators and academic environment gives women an advantage that is not reflected in their actual standardized capabilities. Now, that is very interesting. That is very interesting. So, does this prove that women are getting special treatment in the classroom? I don't think so, but I do think that this is a very interesting topic in a way to look at it because I've never thought of it in this manner.
like the SAT and pull ahead in math and at the high end of STEM, while their GPAs, shaped by their predominantly female and often political teacher subjectivity, often stay lower. In all of this, girls got a front row seat to see boys consistently fail, get punished, and fall behind them. They're praised as being smarter for doing well in school, when in reality they're just being less troublesome and more agreeable. Think about the impact this has shaping a young girl's worldview. The boys are stupider troublemakers, whereas the girls are smarter and responsible. It perfectly conditions them for later feminist propaganda. The type of propaganda that, as I will explain later, kills people's abilities to have relationships and form families, therefore threatening the long term survival of civilization itself. Do you remember mansplaining or manspreading? Manspreading is when a man sits down and parts his legs for obvious reasons. It's still wild that this was an actual point of contention in the culture war. And mansplaining is when a man dares to explain something to a woman. Feminists noted that men do this often, with enthusiasm, which they interpreted as being condescending. Here's what they missed, or intentionally ignored. Men bond by explaining how stuff works, whereas women generally have a preference for talking about people. By making explaining things to a woman taboo, feminists effectively made it difficult for men to bond with women in their instinctive way. But what was far worse was the Me Too era, and how it infected every part of schooling. Teachers treated every male student as a possible would be harasser, and thought it would be their duty to terrorize their students into never acting in a way that could be seen as creepy. On top of that, since Believe All Women was the slogan of the time, female students were seen as the infallible judges of male students' characters. If one thought you were creepy, then you were.
Oh,
Mess
wow.
up an approach? Now you're a creep and everyone knows it, and you'd be lucky if you weren't recorded and posted online for clicks. There was also the issue of malicious women. Since we pretended that all women were honest victims, malicious ones had free rein to do as they wish. False accusations, gossiping, reputation destruction all became commonplace. Even male teachers began to refuse being alone in the same room as female students. Boys flat out stopped asking girls out, or in some cases, even talking to them. The irony was that at the same time feminists were terrorizing boys, most of whom had never even had the courage to ask a girl out, they were supporting the mass importation of peoples known for exactly the crimes they claimed to want to avoid. This was
Wow.
never about protecting women. It was about demoralizing men, and it worked. There was
Now that is a very telling point. It's very interesting because I do notice that women are usually in favor of immigrants and mass importation of people that statistically are more likely to commit a lot of the crimes that they are against. And that is very interesting. I've never understood why that's a phenomenon. I've never understood why that's a thing. For example, I was looking at polls last night, and there's a guy running for Senate in Michigan who is Muslim. No disrespect to Muslims here, but we know in Sharia law that women don't have rights. And I was looking at statistics, and it said college age women are voting for him at 44%, like plus 44% over his Republican opponent. And that's very interesting to me. So it's like you're support a guy who is pro Islam and pro uh, potential Sharia law. I'm not saying that he is, but it is. If you're pro Islam, I mean, who knows? You know, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. And they're anti women's rights, and the people who claim to love women's rights the most and women's independence the most are voting for this. So it's almost like that is like a direct contradiction with the things you say you believe. And I've just never understood that. I've never understood it. I actually even posed the question on X, like, why do these type of women vote this way? It doesn't make sense to me. It truly does not. But that was a phenomenal point. Sorry, I'm gonna run that back and listen to that again. That was a phenomenal point.
whom had never even had the courage to ask the girl out, they were supporting the mass importation of peoples known for exactly the crimes they claimed to want to avoid. This was never about protecting women, it was about demoralizing men, and it worked. There was also other propaganda, less aggressive than Me Too but still impactful, such as the gender pay gap. The routinely debunked but endlessly cited claim that women are paid less for the same job. I remember posters of this in every classroom. Teachers forced us to do projects on it, and we had assemblies discussing it. Extensive initiatives were taken to fix this imaginary gap. Girls were given broad academic support in the form of women only scholarships, glowing recommendations, and recruiting quotas. Meanwhile, men were stuck with only mixed scholarships and the consequences of those quotas, pushing them lower in the rankings. These initiatives were also present in universities and the workplace, encouraging the hiring and promotion of women just because they were women, and we needed more female empowerment. The result? Young women today are often both hired and paid more than men for the same job. In other
Wow.
words, they solved an imaginary gap caused by imaginary discrimination by
Let's take a look at this. Young women earn as at least as much as young men in 22 US metros, 100% above. Look at that. Coastal California? Holy shit. That is crazy. Oklahoma City? That's where I'm from. Houston? That is crazy. 10 metro areas where young women earn the most relative to young men. Washington, West Virginia, Massachusetts, Florida. Wow. San Diego, Yuba City, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania? Wow. Washington, Arlington, Alexandria, DC, Virginia, Maryland. So the entire DMV, pretty much. Holy crap. San Angelo, Texas, 10 areas where women earn the least. Alabama, Michigan, Baton Rouge, Houma and Thibodaux, Benton Harbor, Decatur, Illinois. Wow. Port Arthur, Texas, Beaumont. That is actually insane, bro. Wow. That is like jaw dropping information to me. I'm like mind blown looking at that.
words, they solved an imaginary gap caused by imaginary discrimination by creating an actual gap caused by actual discrimination. The end result of all of this was a system that taught girls that men are stupid, unintelligent troublemakers, filled with entitlement, and whatever power they do have, they got at women's expense. In the workplace, men are seen as inferior, hired less than women, paid less than women, promoted less than women, and
Wow.
less deserving of respect. Women were also taught that the institutions were their allies, who would elevate them and bring about social justice. Meanwhile, men were taught that women are dangerous and have no accountability. They learned that institutions were their enemies that would tear them down for someone else's benefit. Does it make sense now, even when ignoring the impact of technology, why men and women are no longer having relationships? Why there is such
Yes.
open hostility between the sexes, and Gen Z is one of the most politically divided generations in history? How are we supposed to have families together and continue civilization when one sex is taught since childhood that the other is automatically stupid, unworthy, and the cause for all of society's problems?
Wow. Now that was crazy. That was mind blowing. I wanna bring up a point that he made there. See this part right here. This reminds me of where I've seen in a lot of classrooms now these Gen Z millennial women teachers are putting up pride flags and pushing the LGBTQ ideology onto children. And they're like saying that, oh, we won't tell the parents, we won't inform the parents. It's actually insane that how children are being indoctrinated at schools. And it's actually, this was a very informative video because it's like it's crazy because as a young man interacting with women, I see a lot of the effects of this. They act like our presence as men is completely oppressive to them, like we're their enemy, like women don't need men. When in reality, women need men and men need women. We need each other. We're the opposite of each other, you know? And it's like it's crazy to me. Like a lot of the effects of this is ruining our lives as we know it. I think the craziest thing in this is like the gender pay gap. Like now you effectively pay a woman more than a man women obviously want to date up, so it's like they don't really even need men. So you basically effectively take away a woman's need for a man, harm their ability to form a meaningful relationship. It's crazy. It's insane. This was like a very informative video. I think that I, as a Gen Z man, I'm 100% seeing the effects of this. The workplace thing was insane to me because I know of thousands of young men who can't get hired. Obviously, for a plethora of reasons, the job market is in the toilet right now. But it's interesting that they say that men are taught that they're less worthy, less employable, less trustworthy, and dumb. I mean, that was crazy. That was absolutely insanity. It says we're taught we're inferior, hired less, paid less, and promoted less, and less deserving of respect. That is absurd to me. How are we supposed to rectify this solution? Because if this is what feminism teaches that we as men are just, our entire existence and being is just a nuisance to women, and they're at large buying into this and buying into feminism and abandoning their femininity and leaning into promiscuity. How are we supposed to procreate and form relationships? Because I know for a fact, as a man, I don't like promiscuous women, but I know that a lot of things in today's society promote promiscuity to women. I mean, women love reality TV. What's the most popular reality TV show? Love Island. It's literally promiscuity 101. It's literally a CIA project, and women love it. And I personally just can't get behind stuff like that because I don't like it. Personally, I don't like the fact that that's just normalized. But man, it's crazy. I think that this is interesting. I think that this is harmful to young men. I don't know what the answer is because men don't want to work in education at large. I mean, men want a job that pays money. I do know some men that are teachers. Shout out to them. I mean, my father is an educator. He's at the collegiate level, and on his side of the family, we have a long line of educators. So I mean, but what is going to be done about the future of America? Because by the time they're to my father, they're already indoctrinated. You know, their minds are already made up. You know, he teaches nutrition. By the way, he's not freaking indoctrinating students. But it's interesting. You know, I don't know what the solution is, and I feel like this is only getting worse. And with education failing and students being less capable now than they ever have been, unable to read and reason and do math and write, this is only going to get worse because if you're that incapable and coddled, then you're easily going to be led and shaped and convinced. And that's very scary, guys. That is very scary. But hey, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll be back with some more content.